Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from me. In this video I'm going to test and talk about the Rondo strings by Thomastik Infeld. The very much anticipated review. I think many people requested this review and asked me if I play those strings or if I know those strings. And yes, I have been playing those strings for I think the last 5 or 6 months, which is a quite long period to have the strings on my violin. It was just that I was so busy that I couldn't change my strings at all at that time. And I have to say I had no reason to do so. That is the first information I can give you. You can leave those strings quite long on your violin. But let me talk first about some other details. First of all, the Rondo string by Thomastik Infeld is a part of their so-called Violinmaker line or Luthier line. It is a line of strings, of products from Thomastik Infeld that are only sold by the company to violin makers. So you as a customer can only buy them from a violin maker. The company does that to support the violin makers who can make a small margin when they sell you those strings. Let's get into those strings. I might play a little scale for you right now and afterwards talk about the specific strings and the set in general. And later in the video I will give you more in-depth playing demos. Before I start playing, I want to say again, like a little disclaimer, I always test the strings just on my violin, and that means that the impression I get from the strings is a little bit subjective. Of course, I compare it to other strings, how other strings react on my violin. But for example, on the violin there are many factors like temperature, humidity, and also the bow. And I will show you now what I mean with that. I will play now a scale with 2 different bows, and then you can judge by yourself how much difference it makes when you play with a different bow, for example, and also how much of a sense it makes when I give you playing examples. I will continue doing so because you know my instrument, my bow has changed. Yeah, that's a big part of it. So bow number 1. Bow number 2. So when I later play my examples for you, I will use the bow number 1, which is my main bow. Let's start with the lower strings. I think the lower strings are always very important in a set because there are the differences quite big. The lower strings for me make a set like worth it or not worth it. As G string, we have a silver wound string with 10.3 pounds of pressure on the bridge. The G string overall is quite powerful and also focused. The feeling under the left hand is a little bit clumsy because the string, it has a quite thick diameter, but still the playability is okay. For the bow, the response isn't the greatest, but you get rewarded with a quite warm and also quite gutsy sound. You can really feel the give of the string and the instrument. So you can dig into the string and the vibration is very broad. Due to the bow response, I would say it is a 8 out of 10 in terms of responsiveness for the bow. You have to go a little bit to the fingerboard sometimes to have a direct response and create a warm sound. When we come to the D string, this is a very interesting matter. We have a silver wound synthetic core and also, like the G string, 10.3 pounds of torque. This D string leans more to the brilliant side. I always compare the strings with the Peter Infeld Aluminium D string, which is a quite loose string with just 9.9 pounds of torque, which has a very warm, very open sound and lets the instrument ring very good. But the downside is that the bow pressure can really fast break the vibration of the string. When we now talk about the Rondo D String, we have a different material. We don't have aluminium, we have silver as a winding. So we have a silver winding but more torque. That leaves us with a string which has a better resistance to the bow, but due to the softer material, still a little bit of warmth and lots of color, but not as much color as you would get out of an aluminum D string with less torque. Let's come to the A string. For the A string there are two options. First there is the synthetic core string, and second there is the carbon steel string. I just tested the synthetic core string because the carbon steel string has so much torque that I don't really want it on my violin. Also, the synthetic core A string is quite pleasing and quite fitting the set. It is very brilliant and strong even in higher positions, but that brilliance is needed from the quite dark lower strings to the very bright E string, which I will talk about in a second. The E string is a tin-coated multi-layer steel core. It has 17.8 pounds of torque. The E string, I think, is quite special in this set. Maybe I would say it is a little bit overpowered still because with the Peter Infeld set, which I like to compare this string to, you get a very overpowered E string, and with this Rondo set we get a slightly overpowered E string, which in some occasions can be very useful, but in other occasions, for example, if you have a close mic, the E string can sound like it screams a little bit if you don't be very careful with it. The playability though is very satisfying. Still it feels a little strong under the left hand, but the torque is, compared to other synthetic core set E strings, in the higher midfield still. So let me now talk a little bit in general about the whole set and what I think about it. I have to say it is the most balanced set what I played so far from Thomastik Infeld, and it fits my violin very good, and also my playing style and maybe also my needs as a musician. The whole set is very balanced in terms of projection and warmth, but I think it leans a little bit to the brilliant side, which isn't a bad thing at all. But it kept the gutsy sound which Thomastik Infeld, I think, does the best in synthetic core strings out of all the companies I know. Now let me talk about one fact which really makes me like the string a lot. And this is the fact that those strings don't color your instrument. Other companies are known for their specific string color, and they can make your instrument sound like a specific string. For example, if you take the Eva Pirazzi string by Pirastro, you put it on the instrument and you kind of can hear that you have the Eva Pirazzi string also without knowing that it's the Eva Pirazzi string. So they color your instrument very much, which can be a good thing if you don't have a very good instrument, or if you like that sound, that specific coloring of the string very much. But if you have an instrument where you are satisfied with the tone of the instrument, then you don't need that. So when I put this string on for the first time, I was, I think, 5 or 3 days before a big concert for me. I played the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto with orchestra. You can find the video also on YouTube. You can get a general idea of the sound of my violin compared to the orchestra and the projection maybe as well. I put the strings on a few days before the concert, and in the concert I already forgot that I have new strings on. They fit so quickly into my instrument and also into my playing. So I played the strings now for 5 to 6 months, and I really have to say I could leave them on for another 2 or 3 months. Maybe I will do that also, because they still sound very phenomenal and they haven't lost that edge. I think I might notice some deterioration of playability and some things go false in the string because you sometimes hit the string with your metal of the bow, or your finger sweat makes the winding go bad. So there is of course something changing over the time, but you can still use those strings very good after 5 to 6 months. Enough of the talk. I will give you now some examples. I will play a scale on each string, and I will play a little bit of Bach to let you know the overall sound. My mic position is similar to my previous video where I tested the Perastro Perpetual strings. It's like 1 meter away or 1.5 meters away from my face for my violin as well. Start with the G string. That, by the way, is my wolf note, which is not that bad with those strings, I have to say. It still sounds terrible, but it has been worse with other strings. So that was the G string. Now we come to the D string. Now we come to the A string. I think you can clearly notice the power the A string has in the upper registers. So now we come to the E string. So I think you can hear the E string is quite powerful. I now played mostly without vibrato and quite fast. I will now play a slow scale with vibrato. So I will now play you a little bit of Bach. Leave the video a like, subscribe to my channel if you are interested in other reviews, write in the comments if you have some experience with the Rondo strings by Peter Infeld. Have a great summer and bye bye.